Are we on?
Yeah, we're on.
Okay, we're on, everybody. We are just as nervous as you are. This could go in any which way, so let's do
Mhm.
it. Everyone, welcome to Members Club. We
Well,
are your hosts, Arynne Wexler and Charly Arnolt. Hi.
hi. But Charlie, as we introduce ourselves, I think anyone watching this probably already follows us on Instagram, but they might follow just you or just me.
Yeah.
With my first name, my black girl name, the way it's spelled, I
Your
apparently
parents had
missed
to be difficult. They did
yeah.
not want my parents also didn't make it easy on anybody, to keep in mind, so
Yes, no, our this podcast name, that's why we had to come up with Members Club because it couldn't be Charlie and Aaron because no one would ever spell it and they would never find it.
yeah,
But
we'd be lost in the Google algorithms.
yeah, whenever I tell people that we're friends and I say your last name, they have no idea who I'm talking about. And then I show them your page and they know who you are. And I think I don't say your last name correctly. I say Charlie Arnold.
Yeah, that's right. What do you mean?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's funny because I've been working in television for 15 years now. Nobody has ever gotten it right on the first try. Like
What do
it's
people usually
hilarious
say?
because even when I've been on certain shows, like being on Fox, like certain shows, like time and time again, it's still like the host will never get it right. And I'm like, literally, I don't care what you call me. Like at one point, Jesse Waters was like, can we just call you Charlie, like one name? And I'm like, yeah, I'll be like Oprah. I'll be like Madonna. That's fine. Like if I can ever reach their pedestal of success and just be known as Charlie, I'm totally fine with that. But yeah, everyone butchers it. But it's Charly Arnold. Simple.
Arnold. Yeah, I think I maybe say Arnold or something. I
Well, I
emphasize
like that.
Arnold.
It's like more exotic.
It does, right? Okay, so as long as I have your approval, then I don't give a shit what anyone
No,
else thinks, but
whatever.
people are always ragging on me on it, but I agree with you also with my spelling. I feel like it's like Napoleon or Beyoncé, you know? Like, you don't need the last name. So between the 2 of us, I don't know, SEO is really good or really bad because of the spelling, but we're gonna get started. So obviously, I think we've discussed this offline for whoever's watching the first episode, and one day they'll find this in the archives of the very first episode that we did. But we
Before
want
we
to talk.
become our one name monikers, of
Yeah,
course.
yes, the one day. We wanted to talk about a bunch of news and cultural updates from the week that are interesting for us. Ooh, I'm so jealous of that Diet Coke. I can't believe you just cracked that.
I mean, what is the first episode of Members Club without a crisp can of DC? I mean,
I should have my
I would
DDP.
make Trump Daddy very proud. Like,
I just had a Diet Dr. Pepper. I would have waited if I had known. But honestly, I'm a crack addict with it. I couldn't wait. Um, okay, so I wanted to talk about a few things with you while we're on here.
well,
What
first
are
we should we like give everyone like
yeah,
I mean, I
a
think
little
we've already done an
intro?
introduction, but I think like yeah, this is going to be a weekly thing.
Yes.
This is going to be a weekly event. We'll eventually move to multiple times a week, but we want to dip our toes before we like completely jump on in. But yeah, we're going to touch on like anything that's worth talking about, anything that's important to you or me or culturally relevant. Nothing off limits. And this is a new endeavor. I think it's exciting. We're both starting our own thing. The world of, I guess, like the media landscape is changing so much. So it's like everyone else is doing their own podcast. Why shouldn't we get a piece of the pie? So here we are.
Yeah, we
Anyways.
wanted to provide an alternative to some left-wing podcast. It's funny because on the men's side, they talk about how they need their own Joe Rogan on the left, but on the right-wing side of things, we don't actually have a very strong I can't think of a strong female podcast that isn't talking about just the grossest, worst things and encouraging women to ruin their lives by
Well,
making bad.
I would say Megyn Kelly is a good
Yes.
example, but
Incredible.
she's also I would say she's of a different generation than we are. And I think we have a little bit more of a pulse on what our generation and even below are discussing and what's
Mhm.
important. So I think we'll bring a new voice to the media landscape for sure.
Yeah. Oh, we're so awesome. I
You're
can't
so
wait.
cool.
Okay, the first thing I wanted to talk about because we have to, and the news is still going on, is Jeff Bezos' wedding to Lauren Sanchez in Italy. I
The
feel like
$50
you have
million
a lot.
affair.
50,
Yeah.
right? 50, $50 million affair. I have a number of questions on this. The
Hmm.
thing that I keep wondering is he's the second wealthiest man in the world. She's actually age appropriate, which I like, although I
Much.
doubt she's the only woman in his life. But I wonder,
No, come on. Wait, hold on. We need to stop there. You think Jeff Bezos is a dog?
you think he's not?
I never even thought about it. Wait.
You
Okay,
never
I am
even
thinking about it now, and I don't think that he is. I mean, come on. Jeff Bezos is a straight up nerd.
do we need to revisit Bill Gates, who was sending women messages at Microsoft asking if they were interested, and he is actually a loser.
I don't need to shed any personal insight on this subject at all. Yes, I would say there's probably a good chance that he has
There's a
betrayed.
good chance. But
Or
you know what? We don't
what?
even have to agree on this. My point is, let's just
Okay.
say she is the only woman in his life. Let's just
Okay.
say,
Yeah.
hypothetically, you know? I don't believe that. But let's just because he's Jeff Bezos, and I doubt it. Um, why get legally married? You know, like, that to me, it actually feels like he's either sticking it to the ex-wife or there I don't understand the dynamic or Lauren Sanchez just has some talents that for some reason he really wants to lock down.
Listen, I was taking a look at the pictures and I was like, Jeff Bezos looks genuinely happy. Like he did. He looked very happy in all the photos I saw from over the course of the weekend. They've really built a life together. Like it's not, and I think she's helped him in a lot of ways that he wouldn't have been able to get to on his own. Like his style and clothing is far
Yeah.
different than it used to be. I mean, he's had a major glow up. Like
Mhm,
still a nerd, still not like someone I would deem like, oh my gosh, you're like some hot man now.
mhm.
But similar to like Mark Zuckerberg's glow up, like these guys are just becoming more manly. And I
Yes.
think Lauren Sanchez has a lot to do with that. She's married to a former NFL player. So like I feel like brings like the testosterone out of these guys. And she's used to being in surroundings like that. So I think that I don't know, maybe he really is just embracing like this relationship and like being able to share like the amazing lifestyle he's able to lead with someone else. And, in turn, she's introducing a lot of new aspects to his life.
I love how optimistic you are about love and relationships. I feel I'm way more skeptical of it, but I think I'm skeptical not even from their relationship or who he is in the world. I look at a wedding like this and it reminds me so much of the Meghan Markle Prince Harry wedding where there are no real friends. Everyone there is a celebrity. Their wedding is 200 close friends and like Sydney Sweeney's there. Like it just like that
Well,
doesn't make any
Sydney Sweeney was considered to be one of the close friends. I mean, look at the whole group of people they had invited. In fact, Chris Jenner, I mean,
Mhm.
she was like very, she was talking about it. She's like, I made sure that Chloe got the invite, Kendall got the invite, like the whole Kardashian clan was there. They are certainly not all close friends of Lauren and Jeff. Sydney Sweeney is certainly not a close friend of them. Like Charlize Theron, like let's not get into her politics because that's a whole nother conversation. But I mean, she was like, they suck. And like, I'm not gonna go that far, but for sure the wedding had close friends is not a word that should have been used. Like it was a scene, it was a spectacle, it was a who's who congregating in Venice, Italy, and like fine, but like let's not this was like a really close-knit group of people. Tom Brady and Sydney Sweeney were apparently like getting their flirt on though at the
Ooh, you and I were at a members club in New York together a couple months ago where we saw Tom Brady.
Oh yes. I think I was too drunk to really notice.
I was gonna say, I just realized as I said it, I was gonna say remember, and then I realized Charlie really doesn't drink that much. She doesn't
No.
overdrink, but that day you had a friend's opening somewhere, and you
Yes,
went
my
to
friend's flower shop. So we
yeah,
were
a flower shop, and the booze was flowing. I think you had many glasses of champagne, if I remember.
yes.
And I realized something was off because when Charlie is with you, she's very attentive, she's very present, and all of a sudden, we're at dinner with another girlfriend of ours, and Charlie just just becomes mute and just is looking at her phone, texting, and just so, yeah, you missed Tom Brady sitting about 2 tables away from us. No Sydney Sweeney at the time. But I I will say the one thing I do like was that Jared and Ivanka were there. I don't know
Oh,
if you
at the
saw.
wedding also. Yeah.
They were also at the wedding. So, how times have changed
Times
the
have
last
changed.
the last few years.
I like that times have changed in that sense.
Yes.
Feels like people are able to just be friends regardless of political views, and who really knows? Like Jeff Bezos is one of those people that he could present completely different than how he really feels. I mean, I don't think he really presents one way or the other at this point. He's kind of kept a very neutral tone, certainly different than he used to, but it would be interesting to be privy to a lot of people's dinner table conversations and be like, "Oh, so that's how you really feel."
Mhm.
And speaking of, I used to actually, for a very short period of time, I lived in Jeff Bezos' building here in New York, and I shared an elevator ride with him. And it was interesting because as I was riding the elevator down, And his eyes didn't wander just for, to the point of, does he run around? We don't know. I was on the way to Whole Foods to return some of my Amazon stuff, and he was in the elevator with me, and I, like, so badly wanted to make a joke about, like, "Can I just give these to you?" But I was like, "Charlie, don't do it. Just don't do it. Don't say anything." I didn't.
That's so funny. Wow, Jeff Bezos taking the elevator with other people. Like, what a man
Yeah.
of the people. Wow. Part of the hoi polloi. Oh my gosh, I would never expect that of Jeff Bezos. Actually, speaking of New York, I avoided New York the last month. I usually go about once a month. And I saw you a couple weeks ago in New York where you loaned me a dress. Thank you so much. That was
You're
very helpful.
welcome.
Um, how was Pride?
Hmm. Okay, so let me just say that where I live is, like, smack dab in the middle of all of the Pride festivities. I mean, it's actually hard not to be smack dab in the middle of all Pride festivities because it literally takes over the whole city. For people that don't live in New
Yeah.
York, it goes all the way down Fifth Avenue, all the way down through the West Village, and then back up to 7th Avenue. And everything shuts down even in between. So even though 6th Avenue is not a direct route on the, for the parade, they shut down the street to through traffic. Like, cars can't get through because once you get up 6th, then you inevitably need to turn on 7th or 5th, whatever. So they shut down everything. And it is a nightmare to get around. I mean, I had to run across the parade yesterday to get home.
I just
And
want everyone to imagine this for a second. Okay, just imagine this. The Pride Parade in New York City with all the cast of characters you can imagine. And little Charlie. Charlie's what are you, like 4'7"? I'm
oh,
kidding.
please, I'm 5'2" on a
Oh,
good
sorry.
day.
I actually really thought you were like 4'11".
No,
Okay.
oh
So
my God.
5'2". By the way, I'm sorry for doing that because I'm sure when we Google you, I bet one of the suggested prompts is Charlie Arnolt height. I'm sure it's one of mine as well. I don't want to give it away. I want people to be guessing. But okay, Charlie scrambling across the New York City Pride Parade. Did you run into anybody or is it like were the police directing you?
No, the police were not directing me. In fact, I almost got in trouble by the police because I had to come up with a plan really quickly because you can't cut through the parade. That's like a big no-no, even
Mhm.
though I mean, if I need to get home, like, what do you want me to do? Last year, I also came up with a very clever tactic, but we'll save that one for another day. But this year, yes, I saw a small gap in between the barricades, two policemen standing on either side. I slipped through and then just, like, started running. They're like, "No!" And I'm like, "I'm going home!" And then I jettisoned through and then found another crack in the other side and just, like, then that was it. And I was like, "I made it." Big accomplishment because it's a nightmare, and what I did was I spent most of my day over on the West Side Highway, which is out of the way from the parade, except what I will tell you is I thought I was in a safe zone. I was on the West Side Highway where let everyone know there are all types of people walking through. Lots of families spend time on the West Side Highway because there's little
Mhm.
parks, there's dog parks, it's just a really beautiful area of New York. There was I'll say woman because that's, like, you know,
Are
I
you
guess
being polite?
scientifically what they are. Her boobs, I mean, I don't know what she identifies as, but the boobs, big, like, bouncy, like, saggy. I mean, they were, like, big, completely out of their top. Like, there was not even an attempt to have a top and be covered, and
Wait,
it
but
was
this is
just,
a
like, really
biological woman who's doing this?
yeah, biological woman. Sorry,
So just
there's
a
so
crazy
many
woman.
terms these days, I'm like, I don't even know I don't know what to call anyone anymore. Yes, a biological woman, though
How old are we
unsure of
talking? You said saggy. Are we
I
talking
would
like
s no, I mean, but it was because they were obese that they were, like, so large and, no longer being held up by gravity. I would say this person was probably I'm gonna throw out, like, 26.
26? That's so specific. You could have
Yeah.
said 20s. Okay, so they're walking around. I mean, I feel like when I lived in New York and the Pride Parade was happening, there were just naked people everywhere. There were it's a lot of, like, BDSM leather stuff going on, right?
Assless chaps.
Yeah, assless chaps, it's a lot of that. It's a crazy time. Actually, a friend of mine sent me a video, and I'm debating if we'll plug it in here or not because it's kind of long, but I might just put it in here, but it's the, not the opener, but the person who introed the opener, and it's some classic, like, whoever you'd imagine to be opening the Pride Parade in New York City under a bridge at night, and this person is going on and on saying, "And I want a president who's had AIDS, and I want a president who's been sexually assaulted."
I want a president who lost their last lover to AIDS, who still sees that in their eyes every day they go down to rest, who held their lover in their arms while they were dying. I want a president with no air conditioning.
And this clip goes on and on. And I want a president who's been on welfare, and they go on. And I
Is this person talking about themselves? I mean, I don't know. These are very specific.
they want the president of the United States to be a DEI queer freak. Is basically
Yeah.
what they were saying, because they're saying, I want someone who understands
So
me.
probably the person that was speaking could be an option for the
Right.
candidacy.
Right. No, but to your point, actually, they could say, and you could argue that you could understand someone saying, I want a president who understands me, right? Like, I want
Yeah.
someone who understands my struggles and has been through it. That's not really what they're saying. What they're saying is they want an absolute freak who's unsuccessful, who's actually a loser. Because these points, not all of it was about it. Like, it's like, I want someone who's suffered in all these ways and been a loser in all these ways. It was very like Tim Waltz-esque, right? Where it's, you've accomplished nothing, you've owned nothing, you've built nothing. They weren't saying, I want someone who came from, harder circumstances, like a JD Vance, because God forbid we acknowledge that JD Vance came from, very poor drug abused Appalachia and like became the went to Yale and became a Marine and then wound up as vice president. No. You need
He
to
is
be,
like a true come up story. Exactly.
yes, you need to be a loser today, which actually brings me to a topic I desperately want to talk about, which is
Oh, is this also about New York? New York, we're really targeting. New York is being heavily targeted this episode. So
it is one of the most important cities in the world, but I want to talk about Zoran Mamdani.
it is the most important city in the world. I mean, it is.
I would agree with you. And this is where I think you and I, we agree in some ways, we disagree in other ways.
Yeah.
In that I obviously left New York, you are still there, but I have a real problem when the right just dunks on these cities and just decides to totally give up on them and pretends that they're not amazing cities, because these cities are actually why America is so great, right? And this is actually where the founding fathers were. These are our colonial roots. This is our history. And there's something to me that's deeply not conservative and unpatriotic about saying that New York is just, and I know in a way it's not, it's a little hypocritical of me to say because I'm always dunking on New York, but I'm dunking on the policies and the way the city's changed, right? Because I loved living in New York for so much of my life, but the taxes and the filth, the homeless, like all that.
Was it during the pandemic you moved?
It was towards the end. Actually,
Okay.
everyone was coming back to New York. And I had a hard time forgiving the city for everything I saw during the pandemic. So I moved October of 21.
Okay, so yeah, you moved like at the tail end. I spent all of my pandemic in Florida. So I was in summer camp all pandemic, time of my life. Literally, like I remember there was one point at the end of 2020 when there was like all this fear circulating that we might go into another lockdown. And now granted, I know there were horrible repercussions that we all suffered as a result of the lockdown, but I'm just saying from a strictly personal sense, okay? I had a great lockdown. Like I was truly living my best life. And I was like, lockdown again, say less. Let's do it. I mean, but again, I was in Florida. The people that were in New York had a totally different experience. Yes. And perhaps if I would have stayed in New York and been subjected to the conditions that you were, maybe I also would have been fed up. And I'm like, now I need to go to Florida permanently. But because I had such a positive experience and I wasn't, living in these deplorable conditions where I was like locked inside, completely isolated, when I got back to New York and like started seeing like rumblings of it being New York again, I was like, okay, I'm ready to come back. But
yeah, no, it was very different. I was part of the 13% of people in Manhattan who voted for Donald Trump in 2020. And I mean, I actually don't want to dwell too much on COVID because I feel like people are over that topic, but I want to talk about what will happen if Zoran Mamdani becomes the mayor of New York City. Did you vote? Or you'd have to be a registered Democrat.
Yeah, I did. Well, let me just say, first of all, I'm not even a registered voter in New York. I'm a registered Florida voter. So I wouldn't vote here regardless. Maybe that's something I'll look into changing eventually, but I've been a Florida voter for quite some time now. So
I know a lot of people, a lot of people in New York are not registered in New York for many reasons. And especially being in New York City, I know it's all the liberals that I know who are from the tri-state area that grew up in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, wherever, and their parents are still there and they maintain their residence in those places outside of New York City and outside of the taxes. And a lot of these people are switching their voter registration now to New York
Yeah.
City now that they allowed Zoran Mamdani to become the Democrat nominee.
Well, and that's important, I think, because I think it's important that voters do start getting more organized. Otherwise, we could be in for a very rude awakening. Now, listen, Zoran Mamdani, obviously, there's so many things wrong with this man. I mean, he's a complete nut job in so many senses of the word. I feel like the best way to describe Zoran Mamdani is like he's a love bomber. And Arynne, I know you know what a love bomber is, right? Like they
Oh, I
say all of
do.
they
Oh,
say
I
all of the
do.
right things, right? The people that he's appealing to, the people that he's speaking to, look, I'm going to give you free bus rides. I'm going to lower rent for you. We're going to have economic equality. Life is going to be so good. We're all in this together. I'm going to fix everything for you. Don't you worry. Just vote for me. I'll keep you safe. When really, this crazy person has no intention of solving any problems and instead, like all love bombers do, will not deliver on any promises, but instead will make your life much worse. Right? This is gonna be like another like de Blasio all over again.
But he's worse than de Blasio
There's
because
so
de
many things.
Blasio. Sorry, go ahead.
No, this is fine. Cut me off. Cut me off on my love bombing rant. I'm clearly
You
coming
love
from a
bombing.
deeply personal place.
I was gonna say, as someone who's slightly familiar with the topic of love bombing, I know it's a lot of it's about control. They tell you everything you want to hear in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's just you're right. It's just like dating. I saw a very good comment recently that said, Zoran Mamdani promising free subway rides is like the kid in high school promising, no homework and free vending machine. And that's the platform they run on and people vote for them. And then they can't deliver on it. This guy is a classic whiny wannabe theater kid Marxist, except he's even worse than that. We deal with that all the time with de Blasio, with AOC types. Zoran Mamdani is a jihadi Marxist. So he's the worst of everything you could possibly imagine. And to add insult to injury, he's a hand food eater. Like, did you see these images? Did you happen to see the video of him that he
I
filmed?
did see it. I just, I hope he's not shaking any hands after this. Now, listen, in a lot of cultures, eating with your hands is very customary. So there's nothing wrong with, having customs and, if that's something that he actually practices, fine, that's one thing. The man is a complete fraud. He's trying to pretend that he comes from an oppressed group, right? He has like, these real like different roots than what he actually has because when we look at actually the conditions that Mamdani grew up in, I mean, he was attending a $60,000 a year private school. He went to an elite college. He's the son of a Columbia professor, and he's currently living, Arynne, in a $2 million apartment in Chelsea,
Yeah.
where I guarantee you he's probably eating off baccarat and drinking out of like crystal glasses. Like this man is not
Yes.
oppressed. So
Yeah.
when he tries to identify as, listen, I can relate to you and this is how I eat and this is the things that I believe in, this is why I'm the right mayor for you. I can see you. I can relate to you. It's all like one big scam. And in fact, in the platform he's already been running on, he's alienated so many different people that I believe, and this is also based on people that I've talked to already in these past few days, people believe that he's already done so much damage to his own image, alienating certain bases that are extremely important in New York City, the wealthy. For one in every 22 people in New York City are millionaires. We have the largest per capita rate of billionaires than anywhere else in the country. And for him to say, I don't want billionaires to exist anymore, a lot of people are getting rubbed completely the wrong way and already are saying, no, I'm definitely not going to vote for this guy. And now we have like this rally and cry that he can absolutely not be elected to office. And then, on top of that, just the anti-Semitic comments that he's already made. We have a massive Jewish population here.
There are Jews in New York? Oh my God. Do you think he's in a lavender marriage, by the way? A lot of people have been speculating on this because there's something.
Can we talk about what a
extremely
lavender marriage
feminine.
is? Because I saw this in the rundown and I didn't even bother to like delve into this.
I think that's when my understanding of a lavender marriage is when you have a closet homosexual
Mm.
married to a straight woman. Is that not real?
Mm.
Can I search this for a second?
So it's a beard.
It's a beard, basically. Let's see. It's a term for a marriage between a heterosexual person and a homosexual or bisexual person. Bisexual is not real.
So potentially the Clooneys.
Yes, like the Clooney's or like Huma
Potentially.
like
We
Huma
can't have any like charges.
allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah. But also did she ever carry no, she did carry the babies. Amal Clooney.
Yeah.
But it could have been IVF because they were twins, weren't they? That's very common with IVF. They never even had to touch each other to have those
I
babies.
mean, you could I mean, I don't think if you're like trying to gain like the greater like outcome of like we want to have a child, like it's kind of becomes just more of like a not an act of passion or love. It's just like, all right, let's do this. Let's make it quick and easy. We're tracking ovulation.
But
This is
I'm
the
not
right
against
time.
IVF.
Bam,
I'm
bam.
not.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah.
I'm not against IVF. I'm an IVF baby, a topic we'll talk about another time. I want to go back. So lavender marriage, yeah, a beard. There is something very effeminate about this guy. And people are pretending to hype up his wife, who is clearly a 4 out of 10, maybe. And people are saying that she's hot stuff.
Oh, yes, the wife. Have seen her. I was like, wait a second, let me look her up. It's bizarre.
There's something very weird about the situation that makes me very uneasy. And I think it'll make a lot of people uneasy because there's something deeply inauthentic about the marriage, about him. The fact that what you were saying before is that he's highly performative and he's pretending to eat with his hands when all these other videos of him are showing him he was eating with a fork and knife to eat a burrito. Also on the subway, which is disgusting because who eats
He's
on the
also
subway?
a rapper. So let's not forget to mention that, like when we're discussing his resume and why he would be a perfect mayor for New York City. He was a rapper. He like had a stint as a rapper. You haven't seen the videos? You must go back and watch his video. I mean,
I didn't want to see it.
They're gold. They're gold. But yeah, even another rapper, 50 Cent, was calling out Mamdani. Did you see that? He was like, I will give you
him
$287,000 in a first class ticket out of New York if you just go away.
What was the 287 from? Do you have any idea why it was so specific?
Well, it was actually 287. It was $287,000 and $750 was the exact number. And I was wondering the same thing myself. I don't know where that came from, but I'll throw in an extra 250 if we want to round it up to 288.
Well, the only man who could save the city now is Eric Adams.
Eric Adams is he is the only man that can save the city. Who thought we would ever say those words out loud? But here we are. Curtis Sliwa needs to go. He needs to drop out. And the fact that he hasn't already, and also the fact that Cuomo is still saying he plans on staying in the race, like, talk about getting organized. Like, this is the time Trump needs to get involved here. I really, really think Trump needs to find a position for Curtis Sliwa somewhere. I don't know in what part he'll fit in because he also has not spoken so kindly about Trump in the past. But this needs to be one of those, all right, we all got to put our heads together, find him something else to help to, fuel his career aspirations, because him staying in the race is only going to take votes away. And, we all need to rally behind Adams at this point.
I think there's something deeply selfish about Curtis Sliwa staying in the race. He's like, for people who don't know who this man is, most New Yorkers, I think, know this man because you'll see him like he's the guardian angel on the subway, and he actually has a group called the Guardian Angels. And, I actually appreciated them and thanked them when I would see them during COVID when I was stuck in New York City dealing with all the violence at the time, especially because as the city cleared out, as the wealthy people were able to leave, it left just a lot of room for crime. And Curtis and his guardian angels were riding the subways, and you had a presence, and there was something nice to that. What's not nice, Curtis, is running and splitting the vote when you are not a serious candidate. Curtis Sliwa is the Carrie Lake of New York. It doesn't matter if you like him or think there are points of his that are maybe good or that you look at him and think he could have a chance. You have proven that all you do is lose and that you cannot win an election. And if you cannot win, the man has been running since I was sentient in New York. I don't remember a time in my life where Curtis Sliwa was not running for New York City mayor. The last election, when he was running, his most serious answer in the debate, when they asked him, what is your most important issue? What do you care about the most? His answer was saving the cats of New York City.
Very important. Stand your ground, Curtis.
I have to tell you that I don't care about the cats. I care about men who act like pussies. Okay. And that's what he is doing with that stance. Or is he serious? This is also how many years ago is this? This is like,
Maybe what he's saying is save the men of New York. Maybe that's actually what he
oh
was
my
trying
God.
to say.
He was speaking in code.
Yeah. We've debunked.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so that's what he wants.
That
He
might be
actually
it.
the weak-minded men, he's having us, he wants us to stand up for and save. So, I mean, this is even more of an indication why Curtis Lewa needs to go.
I've reached out to people, I won't say who, but I've reached out to people who do know Curtis in New York
Okay.
who would be able to have a conversation with him. And when I reached out and said, this his legacy, all the work he's done for New York, the Guardian Angels, I think he has a radio show, like everything he's done will be defined by him causing New York to go to a jihadi Marxist if he does not drop out of the race. And the responses I got, no matter who I wrote, were can't be reasoned with. He won't listen, and a lot of it was kind of blind loyalty. I'm like, and you and we had a conversation yesterday about something very personal. And we spoke the truth to each other about what it means to deal with the situation and how you should deal with it. That's what a good friend does. What a good
Yeah.
friend does not do is support their friend blindly and say, yeah, Curtis, just go ahead and run for mayor of New York City and I will personally run a campaign against Curtis to get him to drop out of this race. Because that's how important I think New York City is for America, for the first world, for the Western world, for civilization. This is our economic powerhouse of our country, right? This is the center of finance and commerce in America. We can't just let New York fall. And for Curtis to just want to run because he always runs. I'm sorry. This isn't what was the early 2000s? Do you remember when Naked Cowboy ran? Do you remember when the Naked Cowboy was this hot guy who would stand in the middle of Times Square with just a
I
tight.
wasn't in New York that early, so no, I wasn't really privy to New York City politics at that time. I was still in the Midwest, Arynne.
Right. Oh, Charlie's.
People forget that I'm a good old Midwestern girl.
Yeah, from Indy,
Now
right?
I'm running across gay pride parades, but back in the day, I was a sweet little Midwestern girl.
Well, that was at a time when we had real candidates like Mayor Bloomberg, which, by the way, he's a great example of when you have so much money that you could he couldn't run for president. I remember when I was in New York, people were talking about how his team was conducting polls to see how he would do. And he realized he wasn't going to be able to make a run for it. But when he was mayor of New York City, if he wanted to get something done, he would just fund it himself. And that's how things got done in New York City. So Zoran Mamdani wants to get rid of billionaires. We used to have successful billionaires who built giant enterprises who were just funding parts. And I'm not saying I agree with Bloomberg. I obviously am against his stance on guns. I don't agree with his, he got rid of the big slurp, the big gulp sodas. I think that's like
Damn
libertarian.
you.
That's libertarian paternalism. I don't think the government should be in the business of
Don't
dealing
tell us
with.
what we should eat or drink.
Yeah. Although I will say, in a way, libertarian paternalism, it's the concept that you still have free will to do what you want, but they guide your choices to be a better choice. So I actually don't know it's the worst thing that they downsize soda. So you could buy 2 sodas. You just instead of buying one giant one. So that's not really the worst thing and probably better.
It was Maha before Maha.
It was Maha before Maha. Yeah. But all to say that Curtis Sliwa is an unserious, selfish candidate. And if he does not drop out soon, all 5 of you who are watching our first episode will see the genesis. Charlie's so.
Listen, I think there are at least 6. There are at least 6.
Yes, because between our family
I would
members,
say our mothers.
and then we have the people who hate watch us for sure. And we
Yeah.
each have a few haters, so they'll be watching us. And
You
you
ain't
know
got
who you
haters
are.
who ain't popping. Curtis, please step down. Please. I love New York. I want New York to prosper. I don't anticipate leaving for Florida anytime soon, even though, there are rumors that all of these big corporations are already talking to Palm Beach officials to completely relocate their operations down there. I think New York is a very resilient city. It's the most resilient city in the world. It's bounced back time and time again. I believe it can get through anything, but let's not push the limits, right? Let's keep things on the tracks. So Curtis, that means you need to get out of the way, right? We want to keep this train rolling. So please, our plea
Yeah.
to you and also Cuomo, just you'll figure it out. You'll be fine.
if I could offer a prayer in a way that Zoran Mamdani would understand, inshallah, that Curtis Sliwa drops out of the race like a real man, because if not, the man who championed saving the cats of New York is actually just a pussy.
Yep.
So I think maybe we leave it there. I think that's a
Leave it.
great start to our first episode. Thank you all for listening. Thanks to the haters, especially.
Thank you.
The art.
Yeah, this was fun. And yeah, well, we're going to be doing weekly episodes, and stay tuned for, what's to come. I'm so excited to be doing this with you, Arynne. I know that we met through Instagram, and now here we
Slid into
are
the
over a
DMs. Oh,
year. No, wait, is our 1 year anniversary at the end of the month, right? End of
it's
July.
right now or end of
Is
July.
it end of July. So whatever, we're approaching our 1 year anniversary, but we have come such a long way since meeting at Italy in New York City, sitting
Yeah.
across, having our paninis.
I think we actually we're at the 1 year anniversary already in terms of when we started DMing, and it's just we met in person end of July. But just for people to know, Charly followed one of my reels, and it was like kind of a hot girl reel from the gym, where usually a girl, that's not what gets a girl to follow you on Instagram. And when I saw that follow, I thought, that's a girl's girl.
She's a real one.
Yeah, she's a real one. And I slid into the DM. Yeah, that's all it takes, a double tap. Charly double tap my reel. And I was
Modern day dating, friendship, it all happens in the DMs.
100%.
That's really sad. That is really sad, but whatever. I'm happy. You're a good acquisition from Instagram. Most of my acquisitions that have come from Instagram have not been so great. You, on the other hand, have been one of the best. So we'll wrap it there, everyone. This was the first episode of Members Club. Welcome to the club. We're happy to have you.
Welcome to the club. And we'll
Until
see you
next week.
Bye.
Bye.